Hey folks, today we are building a really quick and dirty compost pile. We've kind of cleaned off most of all of our annual summer flower beds, and we're just going to make a no turn, no extra work compost pile. And what we do is it's kind of a combination of taking into account the ideas behind a Johnson soup bioreactor, and that what we're trying to do is build a somewhat of a quick fire up, then reduces down to a low heat, and then we just add worms into it and let it finish it off. So we got a big huge pile of zinnia waste here, and then we have, these are our greens for the pile, and then we've got an ample amount of maple leaves. That's just the first wheelbarrow load of them. And then what we'll do is just kind of build it layer by layer here in this area behind. It's kind of hidden away from the road. It's behind a big old cotton aster, or Continaster?
That's not how you say it, but I don't know how you do.
This is the same place we had a pile last year.
Continaster.
Continaster.
Go on.
Pretty bush.
Pretty bush.
So this is a spot we had it in last year, and it's actually already loosened up the soil quite a bit. And I'm just going to kind of use my manure fork here and just kind of go back through and just kind of loosen things up.
But how high was that pile?
Last year the pile was just about up to the fence line, so by the time I was finished with everything, it was about this big, as you can tell, and it was about to the top of
Did you use
our
it?
fence. I used a lot of it in making like just like tea extracts, and then I spread a lot of it. I spread just on the top of the beds or around our crab apple tree, just around that, just as kind of more of an inoculant than anything else. And it's kind of interesting is it starts out a big huge pile, and then it ends up kind of being, by the time we get finished next May when we start using it, it's down to about maybe that tall. So it's going to end shrinking a lot. And the reason I'm just kind of busting this soil up a little bit is just to kind of give it a little more access at the bottom of the pile, and for any moisture that does get in it, it'll drain out. But this is going to be a covered compost pile, so once we build it and shape it to size, we're going to then cover it with a plastic tarp loosely. It'll still get some air in and out, but mostly it'll keep most of the rainwater out of it. And there's plenty enough moisture in all of the stuff we're going to be adding to it to do the job. So building it's really kind of easy. I'm going to start out with a layer of carbon right at the bottom, and just kind of spread out some leaves. Not a whole lot. There's already quite a bit of carbon left over from the previous pile. And then I'm gonna just do the old layer trick. Basically, we just take the material and we put it in layers, brown, green, brown, green. If you got some compost left over from a previous year, you could throw that in between the layers to help it. But basically, we're going to be using the worms mostly for doing most of the decomposition. The idea is that, yeah, sure, there's plenty of fungal and other kinds of things in here, and there will be a slight heat up in the beginning, but it'll pretty quickly drop off. And once it gets down to about 80 degrees, then we'll take worms from our worm bin, which are compost worms, and we'll basically put them in the pile. And then they do their thing. And they'll work on it all winter long. And the pile will have enough size and it'll have enough thermal mass that if it were to get really cold, the worms will just migrate to the center of the pile or down closer to the ground. We're not turning these, so any of these sticks or things like this are going to break down slower than, say, the leaves, and so that's going to provide an aeration in the pile itself. So there's quite a bit of coarse material. We didn't shred it, like run it through a shredder. So if you did that, this stuff would tend to pack down more. But these guys are, they're still pretty coarse, and most of what'll go on is that'll allow air to kind of maneuver around in the pile, and also, you know, so it doesn't go anaerobic on you. So it's just a matter of getting the layers built. And the nice thing about doing this too is I can build this over a couple of days. So like if I run out of stuff, but I know I'm going to have more stuff in a couple of days, I'll just put the tarp over the top, and then I'll come back when I have more stuff and just finish it off. Because as an example, we still got a marigold bed here that we're still going to take a few more marigolds out of it, and then it too will be finished, and we'll move those materials over to the pile as well. So let's just get her built.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
What's that?
Lather, rinse, repeat.
Lather, rinse, repeat. Yep. Now some of this material was actually sitting here for a couple of days, so it's already started its process, but that's okay. Okay, we've built this pile up. Now, one of the things that you'll notice on this, we're using no supports on this. And it's basically, what I'm doing is I'm using my manure fork, and as I go and I build up a foot or so, I'm going around the sides and I'm packing it down. So in essence, even though these sticks in here are going to give it, you know, plenty of air space, not so much air as you would think of from a traditional pile that you turn all the time, but good enough with the leaves and things of that nature mixed in here, that this will kind of, it just becomes like a tight little, almost like a muffin, if you want to say it that way. In this case, I made this thing only about 2 feet in diameter. I'll add some more to it, and probably by the time I'm done, it'll slope out and I'll pack it down around probably about 3 foot in diameter, and it'll be, like I said, probably another foot or so higher up to the fence. And that's all I'm putting in here. And then it'll take, what I've noticed is usually about a week to 10 days. It kind of heats up to maybe 80 to 100 degrees, and then it kind of comes back down. As soon as the temperature starts to come back down and not look like it's going to fire up again, that's when I'll add my worms. I'll pull the plastic back and I'll add, just to the top, I'll add, you know, probably a couple of pounds of worms in here from when I harvest out of my worm bins, and they'll go down deep real fast. And then we just cover it back with plastic again, weight it down with some sandbags, and that's it. There isn't anything more to it. We don't turn it, we don't do anything else. And this pile will gradually work its way down, and then by next May, it'll be finished. Now, there'll still be, when you look at it, there'll still be, oh, I can still kind of see like sticks and stuff from the zinnia stems, and it's like what'll happen is when you pick them up, they'll just kind of like shred into dust. So they may look like they're still have some structural integrity, but once you start getting in and, like, you know, putting a fork into it or something like that, it just breaks up. And so the worms, when they're finished, they're going to disappear. And so that's another good sign too, that you know the compost is finished. When you pull the plastic off and you don't find hardly any worms in it at all, then you know it's done. So that's it. Nothing much to it now. I'll add a little bit of water to it, and then see, my cats are stealing the show again. Thanks a lot, carrots. Oh, it's peas. Anywho, we'll put a little water on it, a little extra, although everything is pretty wet right now. So I won't put too much on, and then we'll just put the plastic on it. So what do you think? Will it work?
I guess it works, but
It's actually a really low effort. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways to make compost.
yeah, I know.
This is
but
just-
it's up front.
It's behind a bush, no one can see it.
And it's convenient for putting back on in the garden and on our boxes.
So if you have a way, to do it, say around a tree or something that's tucked behind something that you don't see, and it doesn't smell, it doesn't go anaerobic, the worms do all the work, and that's it.
Someday this is going to be all changed.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yep.
So maybe next year.
Sure.
Dream.
Okay, thanks for watching, folks, and as always, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.